I'm on Mackenzie Road here in Caledonia, Ontario, kind of the center point of this dispute. You see, on July 19th, 12 members of the First Nations of the Grand River moved on to that land directly behind me. It's called Mackenzie Meadows. They have renamed it 1492 Land Back Lane. You see, Foxgate Development purchased that land with plans of building a subdivision that would back right onto the reserve. Hence the protests. There have been run-ins with the OPP, there have been arrests, and there has been a permanent court injunction prohibiting any stoppage of development on that land. But as you'll see in my interview with Skyler Williams, the leader of the group, all they want is a seat at the table. So Skyler, we're standing in this road between two pieces of land that have been in dispute for a number of years.
15 years.
15 years. Tell us why.
Lots of reasons,
Yeah.
you know, and to start off, like in 2006, is the property directly behind you, which used to be Douglas Creek Estates. It's now Ganastado. It was kind of the site of the reclamation that our first kind of stance to reclaim some of our traditional territory. And so that's been, you know, occupied by Six Nations people for the last 14 and a half, almost 15 years now. Mm-hmm. And then directly behind me is the Mackenzie Meadows development that's looking to see 1,400 homes developed, you know, concrete and asphalt for as far as you can see, all in the name of progress. You know, and for Six Nations folks, this isn't what progress looks like. You know, progress for us is, you know, having a place for us as well as, you know, the deer and the foxes and the coyotes to run around and, you know, like to let nature still be nature.
Yeah. What happened in July that was just the catapult that said, you guys said you have to do something about this?
Well, we had planned on coming here prior to development starting. And so all the way from Argyle Street here all the way over to Mackenzie Road was just what you see behind me, which is, you know, farm fields and trees and a creek and lots of wildlife running around. And they started over on Mackenzie Road right at the start of the spring, right in the full swing of COVID stuff. And so for us to be able to respond in the midst of the pandemic was difficult, to say the least. And so yeah, for us to be able to make any kind of concerted effort toward putting a stop to development, 2013 there was a big Springfield Homes came to our community and wanted to develop these 1,400 homes. Our community told them no, and in a big way. They had community consultation meetings. There was lots of input heard from around our community, and our community said no. Springfield Homes then walked away from the project and sold it to Foxgate in 2016, and they started the process to develop it as well. But instead of coming to our community with any kind of real consultation with our community, they came and had a information night, put up some billboards, gave a 5-minute talk, and then walked out the door, and that was what consultation looks like apparently in our community. And so for us to meaningful consultation, certainly for the development of any kind of major development such as this coming up on the doorstep of our community, because this is the doorstep of our community. And so for our community to be able to have the opportunity to be able to grow and thrive like every other city and town across the country has been able to grow and thrive. The only ones that have gotten smaller are reserves.
So is this your land? Is this Six Nations land?
It is not part of the reserve anymore.
And so some people would say, if this is not your land, it should be up for development. What would you say to that?
If you could show me the documentation that this land was yours and bought and paid for, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. If you can show me where our community benefited from the sale of this land in any way, I'm in. Absolutely. I wouldn't be here for 108 days if, you know what, if they'd have shown me that on day 2, I'd have went home that day, but that document doesn't exist. And so our community has spent, you know, 40 years researching all of this stuff and pulling out all the historical documentation to make sure that when we say this land is ours, we understand that fully.
So it's, as you said, 108 days. You've seen a lot. You've seen court injunctions. You've been arrested. There are OPP at the end of this road.
Yeah, that was closest I've been to the OPP in quite some time.
I just read recently that you've been told that you have to pay all of the legal fees now.
Legal fees plus damages.
Right. So why not just give up, Skyler?
You know what? And somebody asked me this question the other day too. Is like, are you planning on building a house here? Are you planning on like,
What's your plan?
What's your personal? What do you personally look to gain from this? I said nothing. Like I have a home. I bought my house and I own property and and it's all in reserve. And you know what? I like, for me personally, I don't have anything to gain. But my neighbor, they don't have a lot of property. And so maybe their kids or their grandkids, maybe they need a place to be able to build a home one day or to have a business one day, to farm one day. And if our community keeps, because progress for us isn't just covering everything, isn't urban sprawl. That covering everything in concrete and asphalt, this is how we live,
Yeah.
And we've chosen to live that way. But as our population grows, in that space to be able to have that kind of life where we live in relative harmony with nature and with the animals that are around us, and like they need a place to be able to grow as well. And so for us, it absolutely means that we're going to hold fast on the land here and make sure that we're able to stay here and maintain our peaceful occupation of our territory.
There's been video of violence, of, some of your group being violent towards the OPP and people saying, see, they're instigating. What would you say to people who see that video and think your side is propelling the violence? You guys are instigating the situation.
Absolutely. I mean, this is, this definitely happened. The OPP put out their 1-minute clip of a 5-minute interaction that shows one side of it. Absolutely, that's what happened. What they forgot to mention was the 4 minutes preceding that clip, where they shot rubber bullets into a crowd of people standing on Gunestado, parcel of land that doesn't have an injunction on it, that isn't disputed anymore, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. And so when that happened, our some folks were quite upset by those rubber bullets flying into that, and they were told to leave. Absolutely, that happened.
So how long do you see yourself being here? How long do you think this blockade will be here?
I don't know. I don't know. And our community needs to be able to make that decision. Right now, the OPP is putting pressure on lots and lots of different parts of our community to try and divide our community. This is, just in recent years, the last 100 of the most recent years anyways, have, like the governments and police, the RCMP before the OPP, and the Brits before that, have looked for every crack possible in our community. Not just our community, but communities across the country, to be able to divide our communities. They did that very well with the Indian Act and the institution of band council stuff, arresting our hereditary chiefs at the time. And so when those governments and those police forces come in the way that they do, like in terms of the barricades and all that, like our people have never wanted to see barricades here. Like when we went into land back, this was about a peaceful occupation of our territory, but we will protect our people. And whatever we need to do to protect our people, that's absolutely what we'll do.
What is a piece of this puzzle that you think Canada is not understanding, that the people that are watching who are just like, I don't get this, what are they not understanding about this situation?
That peace, we've been as peaceful as, it's been kumbaya by the fire for the last 108 days, except for those little moments where the OPP come in here, shooting rubber bullets at people, tasering people, dragging faces along the pavement. Like this is the violence that not just our community of Six Nations, but I think people of color across the country have been dealing with. Certainly in rural Indigenous areas, where this is why there's missing and murdered Indigenous women. This is why the over-incarceration of Indigenous people is so high. Like this is, like these are the issues. This is this is what comes at the end of not dealing with those issues for as long as they have. And so our alienation from the judicial process, whether it's seeing 25% of all the jails and prisons in this country filled with Indigenous people, or whether that's the absolute disgrace of policing agencies across the country that have seen missing and murdered Indigenous women go unsolved, unfound. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so to see these communities that have felt all of this hurt and trauma for so long, residential school, like our communities have seen all of this hurt and trauma for so long, and this isn't 100, 200, 300-year-old traumas. This is stuff that happened in my lifetime. This is stuff that's still happening right now. And so when people talk about these, historic atrocities that have happened, they're still ongoing. That genocide for our people is still happening. And so for us to say, well, you know what, yeah, I do apologize to the community of Caledonia for any inconvenience that they had to have to drive around. But our community has seen too much and have gone through so much that this is what we have had to resort to in order to keep ourselves safe.